In this section, I'm going to talk about different relations that you can add to objects in SolidWorks Sketch. I have some random shapes here. What I'm going to do is to show you how I can add relations to these shapes. So let's start with one of them. What I'm going to do is to select an object, and I can see different types of objects. I have circles, I have separate lines, and I have connected lines. And for example, I'm going to select this line here. So let's zoom in first. What I'm going to do is to select this line. By selecting this line, if I do not move my mouse, you can see a mini toolbar appears on the right side of my cursor, and it shows me that I can have some relations. One of the relations is suggested. You can see that relation has some dashed line around that. So this tells me that I can click on that and make sure that this line is horizontal. But I am not so keen of this type of mini toolbar. What I'm going to do is to go to property window on the left side. Whenever I select an object or multiple objects, the property window is going to open and give me different options that I can have for those or that object selected. So I have selected only one line. I can tell that by just reading here. It says line properties. That means there is only one line selected. You can see there is no relation because the existing relation window is empty, and I can have relations by going to add relation part here. I can have horizontal relation, I can have vertical relation, and I can have fixed relation for one object such as this. Now what if I select multiple objects? Again, based on the type of those objects, the relations that are suggested are going to be different. For example, if I select these two lines, you can see I have selected two lines. I can have horizontal, I can have vertical, I can have collinear, I can have perpendicular, I can have parallel, equalism, and again fixed relations. So you can see that by selecting multiple objects, I can have different types of relations. Now what if I want to select a circle? If I click on that, you can see that the only relation that I can have is fixed. What if I select a circle and a line? So if I click on both of these, I can have tangent relationship and I can have equal curve length. So you can see that I have multiple objects of different type, and again different types of relations are going to be offered to me. So once again, you can have different types of relations. So let's start with single object relation. What I'm going to do is to make sure that this line is horizontal. So I go here, select it, and click on make horizontal. Now you can see that this line is going to be horizontal. If I go to the endpoint and grab them and try to move them up or down or left or right, you can see that this line is going to stay horizontal. This does not change its angle. But what about the other line? If I click on this line, now you can see that this is the endpoint of that line. If I grab it and drag it to right or left, you can see that the angle of that line is going to change. That's because that line does not have any relation. So let's add a relation to this line. I click on that and it tells me that vertical relation is a good one if you want to add. You can see that this is dashed around the relation. This is suggestion of SolidWorks. So I accept it, I click on that, and this line is going to be vertical. Now if I try to move the endpoint, you can see the angle is not going to change. It is going to stay vertical. Now what I'm going to do is to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to select this line and click on vertical, and now I'm going to select this line and click on horizontal. Now you can see that I have a complete rectangle. Now if I try to grab one of the endpoints and move it to the right or left, the only thing that happens is the size of the rectangle is going to change. The relations are going to keep the rectangle a rectangle. So this is the easiest relations that you can add to a line. In previous section I showed you if you select one or multiple objects, different type of relationships are going to be offered to you. What I'm going to do is to show you this. Right now I go over the circle. A circle has a center. If I go over the center, you can see that I can grab it with my left mouse button, and I can move it wherever I wish. I can do the same thing with other objects, such as this one, a line that has two ends. I can grab one of the ends, and you can see that I can move it wherever I wish. What if I fix them? If I select one point, you can see that fix is the only type of relationship that I can assign to that point. So if I click on that, a fixed item is going to appear here. So if I try to grab this and move it, it is not going to move because it is fixed. But the other side, no, you can move it. You can see that whatever you do, this one is not going to move, but all the line moves without, making any change to this one. Now again, I go over this and click on the relationship, press delete on my keyboard. I'm going to remove it. The same thing happens to the circle. So if I go over this and click on the center, it is going to fix the whole circle. Now if I try to increase the radius of the circle, it happens. But if I try to move it, you can see that it says cannot drag. The selected item is fixed, so you cannot move it. Although I fixed only one point of the circle, but because this point is the center of the circle, I cannot move it. Now again, I'm going to remove this type of relationship. Now the other type of relationship that is important is the perpendicular relationship. I can select two lines and make sure that these two lines are perpendicular. These two lines are connected to each other. So if I go and click on make perpendicular, they are going to be perpendicular to each other. You can see the relationship right here. Now if I try to move one point, the other point, you can see that the other line is not going to change its relation with the first line. That's it. Now these two lines, you can see that these two lines are not connected to each other. If I select these two lines, once again I have perpendicular. So if I click on this, one of the lines is going to be perpendicular with that. Let me press Ctrl 8. And you can see that the other line is perpendicular to the first one. So if I move this one, you can see that they do not move, they do not change their relation, they cannot change their relation. So if I fix this point, for example, let me click on fix on the property page. Now you can see that if I try to move this, the other line is going to change so that the relationship is still there. Now I'm going to remove these two. So this one and this one should go.